Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. This is our Tuesday night live show that we do every Tuesday. And we're going to answer your questions. Obviously, we got to go through a couple of things before we get rolling today, but a lot to talk about. I hope, well, let's just get to the formalities. I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah, winter solstice. I guess that's for our pagans. Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, or if you celebrate nothing, I hope you had a good time. Normally, we try to go someplace during the Christmas. Ever since my kids were little, always tried to go somewhere between Christmas and New Year's because basically the courts are closed. I think I've got one court appearance, maybe at the end of. I don't have anything this week. I think a couple of attorneys in the office had one or two court appearances. It's just everything kind of shuts down, which is nice because it's the holidays. Everybody needs kind of that break, a little bit of a recharge. And I've been using it to get organized. It just seems like you do so much running around and everything is just go, go, go. It's nice to be able to sit and actually think about some things. And we've been thinking a lot about Crime Talk as well. So if there's something you love about Crime Talk, let us know. We'll try to keep doing it. If there's something you hate about Crime Talk, let me know too. And we'll see if it's valid and whether I should change it or just completely ignore you. I don't know. I will be the judge of that. I guess we're not like Elon Musk where we say polls. Should I just, should I keep it going? Should I set it down? We'll buy it. No, we're not going to do that. We always take constructive criticism. One thing I've learned, not only from being a criminal defense attorney for going on 28 years, I can't believe it's going to be 28 years. Gosh, do I feel like, that I'm very experienced. Let's just put it that way. And so I got pretty thick skin just being a criminal defense attorney. I mean, whatever. And one thing I've learned doing a YouTube channel also over the years is that, what's the word I'm looking for? You got to have thick skin because no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how you say it, you're going to offend somebody. And that's just the way it is. And hey, what can you do? So for those of you who've never joined us, like I said, my name is Scott Reich. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney here in the state of Colorado. I do federal work as well. I mean, I've taken cases. Let's see, we've done cases in South Carolina, the Middle District of Pennsylvania, New Mexico, Wyoming, South Dakota. I think that's it for the federal cases. We've done military cases as well, since I have a little bit of experience in that, being a former judge advocate in the Marine Corps. So, like I said, I've been doing this now, gosh, I can't believe going on 28 years. I cannot believe it. It's gone by so fast in so many ways. And then other days, it just seems like it just drags on and on and on. But one of the stories we're going to talk about tonight is I hope you come here not only for my ruggedly handsome good looks and charm and wit and all that good stuff. I'm joking, of course. But hopefully because you think you can get some accurate information and some explanation as to really what's taking place in the legal community. One of the reasons why we started this channel 4 years ago now was because I remember it was the Chris Watts case. And there was somebody on the news, I don't know, a very lovely newscaster. I can't remember, male, female, whatever. But he or she was there and they didn't know the difference between an arraignment and a preliminary hearing, whether, he was entitled to an arraignment or a preliminary hearing or anything along those lines. And I said, a friend of mine said, you should do a YouTube channel. And my first thought was, wow, nobody wants to listen to what I have to say. I mean, I'm just little old me. And we did it. And then I remember we did a video. I was getting ready to leave for Mexico right about Christmas. It was the Chris Watts case. It was, is this the email that started it all? And it was this email from Watts and his mistress. And the thing took off. And I remember I was in Mexico. I think it was in Cancun. And I kept looking at my phone. It was just blowing up, blowing up, blowing up. And I don't know, I think we got like 25,000 subscribers in a matter of 2 days or something. And I was like, hey, wow, maybe there's something to this YouTube thing after all. I don't know. Maybe there's something here. And so what I think that we've tried to tap into, I mean, let's face it, everybody can start a YouTube channel, and I encourage you to go start a YouTube channel. But I'd like to distinguish our channel. And I'm sure some people would say, oh, your channel is junk. I don't think it is. I think we try to be as accurate as we can be and try to give you straight forward information. And sometimes I tell you, I don't like this guy, like this Sam Bankman-Fried guy. I don't like this guy. Would I represent him? I'd still represent him. Nothing says I have to like my client, to zealously represent them and make sure that their rights are in fact protected. But I'll tell you that. But some of the stuff is just a little crazy. And we'll talk about that. If you watch the video today, there's a TikTok influencer holds herself out as a crime sleuth. And in this particular case, she was reading her tarot cards. And I know I've had people that were sending me information. Scott, I've read tarot cards for many, many years. It's all legit. Whatever. I get it. The point is, it's not admissible in a court of law. So that's the case of a professor at the University of Idaho by the name of Rebecca Schofield is suing a woman by the name of Ashley Gillard, however you pronounce her name. Who really cares? Really, because I don't know. I would probably intentionally mispronounce it if I was in court and I was suing her like Miss Schofield is doing. And I took a look at a couple of videos and I was just like, are you kidding me? This woman got 2 million views or whatever. And it's complete garbage and speculation. And she's going to get the pantsuit off of her. And, well, good. Like I said, I am a free speech advocate, kind of absolutist, but there are certain rules that go along with that. Obviously, you can't have hate speech. That's not protected under the Constitution, right? And then you also can't go around just saying anything you want if it's a complete lie. And if you're just a regular person like this professor was, she's not a public figure like a politician where you can just about say anything you want about a politician. You can't say that about a private individual. And so there has to be consequences for that. And usually the only thing that deters people when it comes to changing their behavior is if it gets more expensive, when they have to start writing checks versus that. So that's our little intro there. Like I said, hope everybody had a great holiday time. And then we got New Year's coming up. And everybody's going to have a recap of the year. I'm sure we will have a recap of the year. Right, Frank? Yeah. I'm looking at Frank over here, the hardest working man in show business, who has helped now for the last 2 years? Tirelessly, or is it longer? Yeah, longer than 2 years. Longer than two and a half, almost 3? Yeah. Who helps us get a video out nearly every day. And all the other stuff that he does. You guys can imagine the behind the scenes. But if you're in the Denver area, we're still looking for one more person. Got to be in the Denver area. It's got to be somebody that can come into the office. We don't do that work from home stuff. Work from home is an oxymoron. I know some people, oh, I get so much done. I focus, but it doesn't work for me. Sorry. You can't convince me otherwise. It's a terrible, terrible thing. All right. So you know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you do. Hit that little bell so you get notifications when we go live or put up new content. And obviously leave us a comment. Put it in the chat. We will try to get it up there. If you use a super chat, you don't have to. But if you do a super chat, we'll do our best to make sure that we get it answered. All right. And remember, this show, just like all the others, if you missed it or you want to listen to it again and say, wow, that Scott guy, he is certainly intelligent. I sure like what he has to say. I think I'll listen to it again. You can listen to it here, obviously, or you can go to the podcast as well. Simply type in Crime Talk or Scott Reich. Doesn't matter. And it'll come up on any of your favorite podcasting apps. All right. First of all, let's get to it. We haven't talked about these people in a while because there's been other news going on in Idaho. which we'll talk about again in a second. But let's talk about Chad Daybell. You may recall he and his now wife, of course, he's accused of killing his previous wife, Tammy Daybell, and his new wife, Lori Vallow, who's been deemed to be competent now, even though she spent 10 months at the state mental health hospital being restored to competency. Well, they have a trial date. And I pulled this up just because I want to make sure we get it accurate. And the court issued a notice of trial setting earlier this month, and it is pretty straightforward. It says there's going to be a pretrial conference on February 27th, and that's going to be at the Fremont County Courthouse. But the actual jury trial is going to be held in Boise because the court granted a motion for change of venue. So they're moving from Fremont County, where everybody in the town knows, small community, knows what the allegations are. They've already formed an opinion, etc. Judge Boyce, in this particular case, made the correct move, but the case has lingered. And the trial date was supposed to begin on April 3rd of 2023, which isn't that far away, and then continue through at least June 9th or longer, maybe shorter if necessary. But that's what the court had set. And this trial date had already been set one previous time, but it was continued because Chad Daybell's attorney, Mark Pryor, said he just couldn't be ready. He is a single firm attorney, also known as a solo practitioner, and he was going to possibly maybe get around to hiring a mitigation expert because it's a death penalty case and all. And he was thinking about maybe trying to find somebody else that could do the case with him as co-counsel. Now, remember, normally in a death penalty case, you're assigned, usually they're kind of court appointed. Most people don't have the financial means and resources to effectively do a case of this nature. There's just so much work that has to go into it. The biggest part is mitigation. Although I've never tried a death penalty case, I had a case that started out as a death penalty case. We convinced them not to go death. But the biggest part of it was the mitigation. And in that particular case, we traveled all over the country speaking with our client's family. Okay. And trying to find out, wow, my client basically had a real crappy life, in and out of the system since a very young age. But yet later on in life, his mom kind of got the act together and had some more kids. And these kids were like corporate spokesmen for multinational corporations. If you saw them walking down the street, you would not think that they were brothers at all. Just completely polar opposites. Not uncommon in lots of families, right? So, we went and but we did something different. This, I swear, it was cutting edge at the time. And this was about 7 years ago. We hired a videographer to go with us. We went out, the attorney and I, we talked to the family members, and we're like, man, it's just missing something. And we said, let's do something a little different. Let's use a videographer to record these interviews with the family, and let's put together a little montage, and so they can actually see what's going on. The old picture's worth 1,000 words. And of course, it turned out to be more work than we ever thought it would. We had a videographer. I didn't know anything about anything. I was just along for the ride, and the videographer's like, talk, ask this question, talk. It was very, very interesting experience. But when it came down to it, we had our meeting with the district attorney, and, we're there. The attorneys were all lined up, and, we got our suits on, and we're ready to tell them all about the good things about our client. And the DA, who's a nice enough guy, I have nothing against him. It was definitely a case that probably was worthy of the death penalty had they tried to go forward with that. I mean, we're talking double homicide, bad sexual things. One person survived, so 2 dead. bad sexual things. The other person's dead, goes cold. It was a cold case for a long time. And of course, clients allegedly pick up more cases along the way involving dead people. So it was one of those cases, just not good. So we go in there, we go in this big conference room, and of course the video editor couldn't get something to do what they were supposed to do. And we weren't sure if this was going to work on a TV. So we're literally like carrying in this monitor, probably like a 3-foot monitor. We're carrying it in. We're, the video guy was working on it. He was a perfectionist, trying to edit it, make it just right. And we watched it, I think, for the first time, maybe the first time all the way through. First time I watched it was in that room because we were just waiting on the final product. And the DA was kind of like, okay, thanks, appreciate it. I'm like, okay. And I remember I was on vacation. I was in California, but the DA said that he would call me and let me know as soon as he had made up his mind. And I think it was a day or two after Christmas. And the DA called me up. And this is the head DA. We're not talking some deputy. This is the head DA. Called me up. It was either the day after Christmas or a couple days thereafter. Calls me up and says, hey, Scott, watched your video. We've made a decision, and on this particular case, we're not going to go death. I said, hey, that's great. I appreciate you taking the time. And obviously my client's going to be happy. His family will be happy. It'll be a lot less work, which is a good thing for everybody involved, so to speak. I think it would have been the right decision. I don't think they would have got it at the end. But I asked him, I said, hey there, Mr. District Attorney man, in charge and hold my client's life in your hands. What changed your mind? And he goes, normally when I have this meeting and it's a death penalty case, I get a letter from the mom saying, don't kill my baby. He's a good baby. He just had a tough life, etc. And he goes, maybe I get a little picture, because sometimes that's all I got is a little picture, like the kid had one picture or whatever, taken. So I get a picture of this is him as a little kid, right? Well, we had pictures. The family it was a really big family, and they had all these photo albums and what we could, go through them. The videographer was able to pick out good stuff, conducted these interviews that were, of the family members. And his brother, it was one of the best moments of it. His brother, like I said, this guy works for like a Fortune 500 company, corporate spokesperson, polished as could be. Surprised this guy isn't like on whatever. He's just he's just a really great guy. We got to spend a lot of time with him, and he's just a fine young man. And he sat there and he said, my older brother never had a chance. He talked about how his mother used to take him out, his older brother. And, when his older brother was like, my client was like, 2, mom was taking him out to parties with him. They pictured him like dancing on the table and stuff like that. Most people aren't taking their 2-year-olds out to party, involving drugs and alcohol and whatever. And, she got older, and, he unfortunately got involved in the system as a young kid and removed from the home and what have you. She cleaned up her act. It's really kind of one of those miraculous stories. They always say the converts are the most devout, so to speak. She had found religion and totally became this God-fearing woman. And the rest of her kids, you would have thought that, like I said, you wouldn't have known that her son that I was representing on a death penalty case was even related to them. They were just so remarkably different. But same mom. And he said, the DA said, I said, what changed your mind? He says, that video of his brother sitting there saying, my older brother never stood a chance, never had a chance, because he didn't have the same mom as I did. And he goes, a jury would never vote death when they saw that. And I said, well, I appreciate you letting me know. And he said, I appreciate the video. It's the first one that I've ever seen It's the first time it's ever been presented. Because like you said, normally I get a piece of paper, letter from mom that, defense attorneys show up and say, hey, he's a great guy. Don't kill our client. He says this, he got a preview of the witnesses that would be called in the mitigation phase. And they were, he just made the decision. So it's, I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. But death penalty, that's what we were talking about. Chad Daybell case. Chad Daybell says, they're going to have these dates, trial dates, April 3rd for a start date going through June. And Mr. Pryor, who's already sought a continuance because he was maybe going to get around to doing something, maybe do some mitigation work, maybe hire somebody that thought they were going to do some mitigation work, all that good stuff. Guess what? He just really hasn't had time to do that. And how it comes up is that there is a deadline coming up that the juror questionnaire needs to be submitted by January 9th. And that is rapidly rolling around the corner. It's next week. And Chad Daybell says that he cannot meet the January 9th deadline. And he also states that he's going to be asking for a further continuance of the trial, which apparently in one of the motions hearings that we weren't able to hear, he alluded to that. And he states it would be impossible for Mr. Daybell to propose a constitutionally adequate juror questionnaire prior to completing a mitigation investigation and prior to receiving and reviewing all material evidence. To safeguard Mr. Daybell's right to effective assistance to counsel, his due process rights, his rights to a fair and impartial jury drawn from a fair cross-section of the community, and his right to individualized sentencing, Mr. Daybell objects to the current scheduling order and will promptly file a second motion to continue. Now, let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, although the case filing in this particular case is a 22 reference number, but let's go back. And you have to remember that this indictment in this particular case, gosh, the indictment came down, 21, May of 2021. And remember, before that, that's when the indictment was handed down. That's when the grand jury said they were going to do this. But the children went missing. Everything kind of started, I guess the whole conspiracy, October 26th of 2018, and continued through January 15th of 2020. And basically October 26th of 2018, let's see. Oh, that's the bank fraud. Let's just go back here. The kids went missing. I guess I should know this. September of 2019. September 2019. So this case now has been going on since 2019. We're rolling into 23. Mr. Pryor's had this case since literally the beginning of the case. When there was first Mark Means was on the case when he represented Lori Vallow. He was booted off the case by the court for his conflict of interest and a couple of other things that maybe he didn't do so great on as well. But he's out of there. Boom, he's gone. But Mark Means has been literally the attorney since since Chad Daybell was arrested. So here we are since September of 2019. I mean, count your fingers, 2019, September, 2020, 21, 22. We're now 3 years into this. Now, I'm not going to tell Judge Boyce how to run his courtroom, although I could probably offer some suggestions. And I understand, and nobody understands and wants to make sure that every criminal defendant has his constitutional rights protected more than this guy. But at a certain point, Mr. Pryor needs to either A, focus on this case, or B, he needs to move to withdraw as expeditiously as possible so that court-appointed counsel can come in, and if there's going to be a continuance, they're going to do it. The court, as I understand it, asked the parties how much time they thought they needed, and there was some wishy-washy, and Mr. Pryor said that he was going to be able to accept the dates of December if, one, they dropped the death penalty, and two, if he was tried separately from Lori Vallow, his client. So there's a lot of logistical issues when they're moving from one side of the state to the other. Anytime there's a change of venue, they don't pick up and the judge shows up. All the court staff have to go because it's their courtroom. They're just conducting it in a different courtroom. I mean, it's their case. We've already talked about, not this show, but in previous shows in the past, where the district attorney as well as the sheriff really objected to the procedures that the court had set up due to the costs associated with transporting people, the cost of housing the jury while they, the cost of picking a jury up in Boise and then bringing them back to Fremont County, and paying their lodging was less expensive than paying for all the sheriff deputies for travel, witnesses, and all that kind of good stuff. So you just, I think, obviously, Mr. Pryor has not filed a formal motion to continue. However, if I was Judge Boyce, I think my head would probably explode if I received that motion, and there would have to be some damn good reason. Not just, hey, Judge, there's a lot of discovery. Every case has a lot of discovery. Every case involves work. It's like, what have you been doing? You said you could take these dates and not. It's a death penalty case. Mitigation. Hell, you have a cooperative family. It's not like you're dealing with some kid from the hood in a different state where, you're going to have to go back there and people are not willing to talk to you. You got to get people to trust you, etc. We're talking about a family. It's going to say, he's a great dad. Sure, he's accused of killing our mom, but we don't believe that. We love him. We trust him. He's a good guy. We blame it all on that Lori Vallow. So it's the type of situation where how much more mitigation do you think you need to do? Okay, he was a good guy. These kids, he was a great dad. Okay. His family, he's always there. He's always a great neighbor. Helped everybody out. Just can't believe these allegations. But nothing ever bad happened until he met that Lori Vallow that he married. 2 weeks after his wife passed away? What a coincidence. What a coincidence. What a coincidence. Just 2 weeks, and they rush off to Hawaii, and all the kids are gone. Just the two of them. Just a match made in heaven. The rest of the world was out looking for JJ and Tylee, and they're vacationing and having their honeymoon out on the Hawaii shores. Wow. That's just fabulous. So the facts are what they are. Obviously, the kid showed up. The defense is easy. She and her brother did it. Lori Vallow and her brother, Alex Cox, did it. My God. All he has to do is watch this show. We went through it. We've gone through it several times, what his defense is. I didn't know. I didn't conspire. Lori and Alex Cox, who's now dead, is not here to defend himself, thank God. She did it. He did it along with his crazy sister. And we all know she's crazy, right? Who was there at the mental hospital for 10 months? Because she's crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Crazy. Like Fox, maybe, but crazy just tricked me, little country simpleton, Chad Daybell. Don't kill me. Didn't know, didn't kill my wife, right? That's his defense. And if he loses, hey, I'm a good guy. Sure, I maybe broke off a little bit from the Mormon church over here, but overall, I try to follow the teachings of my church. Sure, maybe got a little carried away, wrote a couple books, got a little, and did I tell you I blame it on her? She put a spell on me. That's the defense. That's the mitigation. I'm just not sure how much they need. Really, I just don't see it. I would tell Mr. Pryor, nope, you're going to trial. And if there's going to be ineffective issues, we'll deal with that if there is, in fact, a conviction. So we'll see you there on April 3rd, Mr. Pryor. Be ready. And oh, yeah, please have your jury questionnaires. I mean, I get it. Everybody gets all freaked out. It's a death penalty case. It's a death. Yeah. You got to go qualify them. Okay. If they're against the death penalty, they're not going to be on the jury. We know that. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And then they're going to use what they refer to as the Colorado method. And they're going to ask, the attorneys are going to ask, and they're going to say, hey, you know, there's lots of factual issues, but it's weird that we have to start talking about sentencing before we've even discussed the facts. But based upon certain information, if you were to believe this, how likely would you believe that somebody would deserve the death penalty? Right? I mean, you can ask them, what do you think is going to take? Well, it's got to be pretty overwhelming. They're going to talk about aggravating, mitigating factors. Yeah, I'd be willing to consider that. Yeah, everything's on the table. Yep. And then it going to come down to every trial attorney's gut and intuition as to whether they like that juror. Okay? I've always said it. Jury selection is the most important part of the trial, because if you have a bunch of jurors that aren't going to listen to the evidence or have already made up their mind, it just doesn't matter what the evidence is going to be. And they've got to like the defense attorney. Bottom line. So you got to be nice to them. Let me know. But if they want to be a jerk, guess what? We can take them out just as easily and make them look like a fool if we had to. It just depends on if they're going to be polite about it. Like, this just isn't the right case for me. I don't believe I can be fair and impartial. Or when they get up there and they say something stupid. Oh, really? Okay, now I'm going to have to embarrass you to make a point that we don't need people like you on a jury because you're a closed-minded bigot, right? That's what we can do. It's not that complicated. Hell, in all honesty, any experienced attorney could probably pick this case up and go try it. Between now and April, done. Bring it on. Let's go do it. Clear your docket. Go. So I just do not think the judge, hopefully the judge will deny it. We'll have the trial in April, and I don't know. Just don't do it. All right. Let's talk about the Idaho case. Okay. The slayings at the University of Idaho. And hot off the presses this evening, because something always good happens when we go live. Always some breaking information. And what is the breaking information? I swear, okay, maybe I'm joking just a little bit, but I think the Moscow, don't mispronounce it. Don't put the W on there. Moscow Police Department, I think they're watching Crime Talk. They must have seen today's show where we talked about the law professor suing Ashley Gillard, Guillard, Guillard. We talked about it. Great video today. I went through the whole complaint. What in the hell is this woman doing? You can't do it. Obviously, we don't know it. We'll see. We will see what evidence Miss Gillard will come forward in her answer and show us why the only defense to defamation, which is, well, I didn't mean to lie. I didn't really know it. It isn't believing, I believe it true because the tarot cards told me it was. That isn't evidence, ladies and gentlemen. That would be hearsay, wouldn't it now, ladies and gentlemen? That's right. If you are a Patreon member, you'd have your trial guide. You'd have your rules of evidence, right? You would know hearsay. It's anything that the witness on the stand is going to say that somebody else said. Hearsay. You can't testify what somebody else said unless it's the defendant. So it's just crazy. So anyway, the Idaho press release comes out this evening right before the show starts. And coincidentally, like I said, their first topic is the same topic that we had today when we did our show. The Moscow Police Department, MPD, is providing the following information to update the public on the known facts surrounding the 4 murders that occurred. Oh, you know what? I forgot to add in the our news music. Frank sets up this board. He sets it over here. I forget about it. All right, here's the news release. Breaking news. Dun, dun, dun. At this time in the investigation, detectives do not believe the female associate professor and chair of the history department at the University of Idaho suing a TikTok user for defamation is involved in this crime. The Moscow Police Department will not provide a statement about the ongoing civil process. That was our lead story today. It's like they're watching it. There's been numerous inquiries from members of the public and media to verify digital media published online. Any picture or video provided through the official public records request is authentic. However, once a record is released, we can no longer verify its authenticity, and we do not know if anything has been altered. Detectives are aware of videos distributed by local businesses. For those of you who aren't familiar, I will fill you in because that's my job, is to make sure that we bring you the most accurate information. There's been some video released of 2 of the young ladies that were at the bar earlier the night prior to their demise, showing them interacting at the bar. It's been released. Nothing, doesn't add anything new or substantive at this point as well. And then they also believe that they're looking for more videos, more information, etc., and that they're still trying to locate the white 2011-2013 Hyundai Elantra. Got to keep the news music going when we're reading the press release. Believed to be an immediate area of the King Road residence during the early morning hours of November 13th. Investigators believe the occupants may have critical information to share regarding this case and have identified over 22,000 vehicles. If you know of or own a vehicle matching this description, or know of anyone who may have been driving this specific vehicle on the days preceding or the days of the murder, please forward that information to the tip line. There you go. Guess we can turn off our news music there. Yes. So we talked about that, and here I solved it using a Ouija board and a magic 8-ball. That was clumsy clairvoyance. Did a $2 super chat. Really wish they would just sever their cases, referring to the other one. But yes, and we joke about it, for our Patreon members. Immediately following the show, our Patreon members are able to have access to exclusive Patreon content. And one of them is the fact that we do a show immediately after this, and you can actually call in. And at the end of the show, we use the old school magic 8-ball. And then sometimes we have the high-speed, low-drag new magic 8-ball to ask, like a humorous question. Will the trial actually go in the Lori Vallow Chad Daybell matter on April 3rd? What say you, magic 8-ball? Signs point to yes. So I'm thinking Judge Boyce is probably not going to do it. Now, do I put much weight really in the magic 8-ball? I mean, sure, I jokingly say, who doesn't use the magic 8-ball to solve all the great mysteries of life? Well, I mean, maybe once or twice when you really don't know what to do. Hey, magic 8-ball, should we buy this? Should we not? What do you think we should do? Jokingly, of course. But who here, with a show with a raise of hands, would go into court under oath and say, the reason why I can solve a criminal case is because the magic 8-ball told me who did it? Think about that for a second, ladies and gentlemen. That sometimes you have to demonstrate absurdity with absurdity. And this TikTok person, this Ashley Gillard, however you pronounce her name, don't really care. Okay. Who has a TikTok site that goes on and makes these outlandish allegations against a professor who she's never met. Apparently, the defendant in this case has never, ever even been to the state of Idaho, let alone never met this professor, accuses her of either A, being directly involved, or B, ordering somebody to be directly involved in all of these murders. And the reason why was option C was because as a professor, she was having an inappropriate relationship with one of these individuals. Obviously, the professor did everything that she was supposed to do. They write a nice cease and desist. This TikTok lady gets up there and says, I got this piece of paper, this lawsuit, and it's all false. And why does she need 3 attorneys if she's so innocent? She's going to defend herself in court. Well, she needs 3 attorneys because they hired the whole law firm. The whole law firm's on there. But this knucklehead doesn't even realize that she's the defendant. She's the one that's going to need to hire a legal team to defend herself. She's being sued. So, first of all, she has no concept of what takes place in the legal system. Probably not even clear what's the difference between a civil suit and a criminal action, although she's going to get schooled up on it real quick. And more importantly, I mean, I personally hope, because this is going to make great content, and I don't mean it in the sense, listen, there's nothing tying this professor to any of these crimes. And could you imagine if somebody did that to you and just came out and said, you did this? You know, like, are you kidding me? Okay, where's the proof? And I said, well, the magic 8 ball. The magic 8 ball told me you did it. Right? That would be it. You'd be laughed out of court. Well, in this particular case, this Ashley Gillard on her TikTok, and this thing's got 2 million views. It's not the magic 8 ball. She has tarot cards. Whatever. I know some people believe in the stuff. Totally. I get it. If that's your thing, that's cool. But you know as well as I do, it's not coming into court. And I always think if people, there's things in life we'll never be able to explain. I get it. I understand it. But I was wondering, like, if I was truly a psychic, and I know they're going to say, well, those aren't really their powers. They're done for powers are good. All that good stuff, right? No. If I was psychic, I'd want those Powerball numbers week after week after week. That's all I'm saying. If you can do that, then maybe I'll believe it. But until then, probably not so much at all. Scott, would you take the tarot card case? Oh, sure. You need to bring me a retainer of $500,000, and I need to see your proof. Otherwise, we need to try to get out of this lawsuit as quickly as possible. That's what I would say to the client, regardless of how much money they paid me. Attorney's advice is to give the best advice that they possibly can. Ouija board, magic 8 balls, tarot cards, and a set of D&D Dungeons and Dragons dice, and I've now solved many crimes. You nailed it. Yep. And so funny, one of the first associates I ever had, and she's a judge now. Somebody gave this to her as kind of a joke, and when she left, after working for me for like 7-8 years, she left this with me, and the water's a little low. We tried to get a new one. It's just not as cool. I mean, you push the button, but it's a joke. I would never, hey, should we take the deal or should we roll the dice at trial? What say you, magic 8 ball? Oh, as I see it, yes. I mean, come on. So it just shows you how much, what's the word I'm looking for? You can't put your faith in a lot of those things. And this lady's getting her butt sued. They're asking for at least $75,000 or more. I mean, could you imagine? She's already had to get security. It's affected her job. Can you imagine being a professor who's married, who's out of town at the time of the murders with her husband, being accused of not only killing 4 people, but being involved in an intimate relationship with them based upon no information whatsoever, but a freaking card? Unbelievable. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not free speech. That is defamation. That is a lie. You cannot just say whatever you want. And the First Amendment doesn't protect defamation. So I doubt this lady has, doesn't have a nickel to her name. But whatever she got from her TikTok videos, she should be allowed, the plaintiff should be allowed to collect all that, whatever she gained from it based upon that information. Just outlandish. You can't do that. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. It's just completely, like I said, I'm a free speech guy, right? The government shouldn't, remember, First Amendment prohibits the government from creating laws or doing things from inhibiting your free speech. Private people can do that all the time. Your private employer can say, you're not going to talk about this particular subject. You are going to say this. But as a private citizen, you cannot say anything you want about anybody you want. You just can't do it. And frankly, people need to start suing people. Not that I'm encouraging, we don't need more litigation. We don't need any more litigation than we really actually need. Sometimes it's necessary, but somebody needs to put this person down, smack them around a little bit, figuratively speaking, and make sure that what's the word, that they can understand that you can't go around saying things, and that's really what it boils down to. I mean, we saw the whole Johnny Depp saga, but it's really, even then they settled. Is he ever going to get his, what was it, 8 million, 10 million after or whatever? No, they settled for $1 million because they knew the person usually making the defamatory statements doesn't have the proverbial pot to piss in. And so therefore that's it. Somebody here, Kim Berger on the super chat says, can Ashley use mental illness as a defense if that is a factor? No, not really. Don't think so. I mean, yes, they have to be competent even in a civil court proceeding. I've watched a few of these ladies' videos. I don't think that she is not competent. But once again, it doesn't mean, then if you're incompetent, get restored to competency and then apologize. And that's the thing. This woman is doubling down, and every time she says something that's false, it goes out there, and there's actually like an analysis that people can do. Oh, based upon these many views, boom, 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 this is how much money people think that they should be paid. So this woman, hopefully she gets herself an attorney, and her attorney says, what are you doing? Your tarot cards are about as good as Scott's magic 8-ball. And Scott's not going into court with his magic 8-ball. There's a reason for that, because it's not legal and competent evidence. So if you don't want to get sued and lose whatever you have and affect the lives of your children, because I mean, this professor out there, Miss Rebecca Schofield, I don't know how much money she's got, but she felt it necessary to sue this woman and go after her, and it's like, hey, you want to sue me? Okay, game on. And if I win, guess what? I'm coming after you. I'm going to get whatever I can from you that I'd be entitled to. Make your life a living hell. That's just the way it is. Either you're going to be my best friend or I'm going to be your worst enemy. That's just the way it is when it comes to litigation like that. So if you're going to go around suing people, you better be right. You better be right. And it's one thing, I've had lots of people come to me over the years. Oh, Scott, take my civil case. Not a good case. Even on, we have an attorney that does PI cases. She probably talks, for every 10 people that she talks to, we take one case. because it doesn't matter what you think happened, you have to be able to prove it. So, anyhow. Wow, there we go. I want to talk about one more thing before we end, and that is the old SBF guy. Let's see here. Let's see. Tanya has a question here. I'm still waiting all this time on tears from a mother who lost her children. And 2, Lori knew she wasn't spending JJ's check on him. And so whether we can prove it or not, look at those 2 things. I agree. I don't think I've ever seen her shed a tear for her kids in any way. And she wasn't out looking for them. Right? The whole world's out looking for her children. And she's not. I've said this before. I'm telling you, and a good prosecutor is going to say, ladies and gentlemen, it is every mother's job throughout nature, whether it's a baby, leopard, lion, bear, whatever, they take care of their young. They protect their young. And Lori Vallow didn't do that. That's what the prosecutors are probably going to argue. Pretty simple argument, I would think, right? Because they can prove it pretty quick. She's off getting married in Hawaii with the ring that she ordered. What was it on? I think it was on Tammy's and like their Amazon account. She was looking for it before. It's like she almost knew something bad was going to happen to Tammy Daybell. I mean, can you imagine what a coincidence? What a coincidence that that is what happened. Wow. Yeah. Coincidence. It happens. And I get it. Everybody can go and like I said, if I was on any side, I can argue both sides quite easily on all this stuff because that's what a good attorney is supposed to do. I see these people, I think that they're just hacks. And it's like, why can't you just present both sides of the arguments? Here's the case for the prosecution. Here's the defense argument. And be able to say, the prosecution case is a little stronger. Let's face it. The defense, they got some problems, but they got a little bit of something to work with. That's just being intellectually honest that, this is what a case looks like. That's what any good attorney is going to do with their client. Here's your good facts that could go your way. Here's your bad facts that I'm not really sure how we overcome, or we can kind of argue, spin on this. That's the attorney's job to do that. So it always finds me crazy when you see some of these shows, whether it's on TV or YouTube, that's like they can't even consider the possibility of what the other side is going to be arguing. Well, of course you are. That's what attorneys do. They always anticipate the argument of the other side. But you can't talk about it because we don't want to tell the other side the bad things that are going on. Really? I mean, you think the other side isn't going to figure that out? Are you kidding me? Of course. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good point. If you're getting married, don't you want your daughter as your flower girl and son as the ring bearer? You would think so, right? I would think so. Let's see here. Okay. SBF. Let me just take a quick look at a couple of these things because SBF, this guy, he was meeting with the author. Where was that? Where did I put that? This guy, he accused of stealing billions of dollars through his hedge fund and his trading account. And gets a $250 million personal recognizance bond. Let's call it what it is, ladies and gentlemen. He got a PR bond for stealing billions of dollars, ruining people's lives. And not only does he get a PR bond, his parents are like, well, okay, I guess we could put our house up. That was the fastest house posting I've ever seen in federal court. When you post real estate in federal court, um, I mean, you have to show here's the assessed value. You have to show all kinds of record. It's a pain in the butt. So I don't know if it was prearranged or if they actually put the property up. I don't really know. I'm not going to speculate, but he was out that same day, which is pretty normal once you sign the paperwork. And as the conditions of his personal recognizance bond, he can't spend over $1,000, but apparently they're spending about 10 grand a week on private security. I'm assuming his parents spent it, so they don't need any approval from the court, because Sam Bankman-Fried cannot spend more than $1,000 without it being approved by the pretrial services officer, basically a fancy word for a probation officer before you're sentenced. And so this guy steals all this money, gets a personal recognizance bond for $250 million. Didn't even say, Judge, he's a danger to the community. He's a flight risk. We don't know what he could do. He'd be tampering with witnesses. He could be tampering with evidence. He needs to remain in custody. But the United States attorney agreed to it. Are you kidding me? So it means a couple of things. Probably he's going to agree to go in and proffer. He's supposed to be back in court January 3rd, I believe. You know, he's going to be set for an arraignment. He has 70 days from that date, unless the courts continue it, set it out. The typical stuff we talk about in the video today. If I was giving Sam Bankman-Fried legal advice, what would you do? I mean, first of all, you always ask every client, what's your goal? Okay. If it's, hey, man, I really screwed up. I'm a good guy. I'm really embarrassed. I just can't believe I did this. Give me the best deal you can. Okay, that's my marching orders. Sometimes you say, you know what, maybe I'll do a little better, but you got to push it just a little bit. We may have an issue here. Maybe you'll get a better result. Okay, I trust you. Sometimes you get clients like, listen, man, they got me dead to right. Get me a deal. Get me a range between here and here, and I'll take the deal. If not, I'll see you in trial. And I can respect that. I just don't like the game players, the people that come to you and like, what's your goal? Well, my goal is if you can get me this number. Okay. Sometimes you always try to get better than this number. But if you say, hey, I got you this number. I know this particular district attorney or United States attorney, it's not going to change. The calculations aren't going to change on the federal sentencing guidelines. And they're like, well, if you push it just a little bit, this is just their first offer. Everybody thinks in the system they like get multiple offers. And everything in the federal system is based upon the federal sentencing guidelines, big fancy chart. You start over here, you say, oh, criminal history along the top, criminal offense level. You come down here, and that's where you meet. That's what your sentence is going to be. Pretty simple. Maybe tomorrow we'll pull up his indictment, and we'll go through the federal sentencing guideline calculator. He's clearly a leader organizer, so we're not going to get that 2-point reduction there for him, Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried. And this guy should probably go to prison for 20, 30 years. That's just my thinking. We had a guy not long ago, I think it was about 7-8 million that he swindled. And I can say that because he's pled guilty. And he got a 7-year sentence. And that was like 7. So basically $1 million. You know, this guy, in theory, he should be locked up from now to eternity. But he's pretty politically connected. He already got a $250 million personal recognizance bond. Who knows? Maybe all the planets will align for Sam Bankman-Fried and nothing bad will ever happen because everything will be happening. He'll just sneak out the back. And who knows? He may be pulling in some of those political favors. You just never know. You just never know. All right. So I wanted to get that off my chest. That guy just strikes me as a punk. That's all I'm saying. And if I was his attorney, I would tell him, hey, first of all, dude, let's go get a haircut. We're going to get a haircut so you don't look like a punk. And yes, you're going to I understand you were in custody, but next time we're going to show up for suit and we're going to be in a well-fitting suit. And, you got some money, your parents got some money, and we're going to get you a nice tie. So you're going to look like that. You're going to be polite and respectful and stop talking in that baby voice. That's what I would tell the guy. Like, what is it? You're 30 years old, dude. Like, you're still talking in this baby voice. Are you kidding me? Anyway. All right. Can you believe we've been going now? Just hit the hour mark. It goes by so fast. So let's see. We talked about Chad Daybell, Sam Bankman-Fried, that nutty lady on YouTube that's going around accusing people of killing people when she wasn't even in the state and she was with her husband and never had an intimate relationship with one of the students. I'd be suing somebody too. You sue in defamation when you're absolutely right. Let's just put it that way. So, yes, Jen Lowe, they did have to take his passport. He had to surrender his passport. But in today's world, really, you can go down to any part of town and any major city and you can get whatever documents you need. Just saying. It's a thing. Now, he'd be pretty recognizable, but, you can hang low. I don't think that being on the lam, though, would be something that he would want to become accustomed to. I don't think it fits his lifestyle. Guys, remember, this guy grew up with, he lived a sheltered, pampered life. He suffers from a horrible disease. I think it should be recognized in the DSM 4 or 5, whatever number we're up to. We've talked about it before. It's called the disease of TMM. Too much mommy. Everybody taking care of him. In all honesty, Sam Bankman-Fried's parents should have said, hey, man, you got yourself in this mess. We love you. We're here for you. But you need to make yourself comfortable in custody. But what do? They got an attorney. They got him out. Sometimes the hardest thing I've ever had to tell parents, even when they show up and they're like, here's a ton of money, go, and they ask you, what do you think should take place? And you have to tell them, if you really want to help your son or daughter in this particular case, don't go bail them out. Let them hit their rock bottom in custody. Let them realize what's going on. Let them get clean and sober. Sometimes being a lawyer is not always the easy job that everybody thinks it is. Sometimes you got to tell people what they don't want to hear, and then they have to decide whether they're going to follow the advice. So, all right, like I said, Chad Daybell, SBF, Idaho. We'll see if they go. All right. For those who have joined us for the first time or maybe the second time, now is the time to go sign up in the link below. Come join us as a Patreon. We'll be there in a couple of minutes. We'll have the phone line hooked up so you can call in and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about because you're Patreon and it's your show. I work for you. So ask me anything you want. All right. That's all we have for you tonight. Subscribe, like, share, tell a friend. Let's get up to 1 million subscribers so Scott can quit his day job. I'm just going to come out and ask. Scott wants to quit his day job and be a full-time YouTuber. So let's get to 1 million. That's the only way it's going to happen. I'm not asking for much. Okay. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.